Hello? Start a family with you. I don't think it. Oh, okay. It's for you. It's your future husband. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. We're going to be discussing in further detail the nuances, some of them, because there are lots. There is a lot to unpack about the attack on marriage and how it is you can safeguard yourself against some of the things that are happening right now in terms of how relationships work and how they don't work. Now, I do not claim to be a couples therapist or a couples psychologist. I am just a person who has been married twice and who has had so far a pretty successful relationship. And I'm going to share with you some of the things that we do in this household to make sure that our relationship looks and feels great. And now, like I said in my last video, you are going to hear some things tonight, y'all, that are definitely going to rub you the wrong way. Because when I was told about some of these things, and if you want to check out the whole platform and the whole conversation, you can head over to my Patreon because I go into step-by-step detail as to some of how marriage counseling should actually be and what we have done to maintain our marriage. We will be celebrating our 9th anniversary in a couple of weeks. We got married in Christmas, a little Christmas wedding, and it has been quite interesting. Now, I am not going to sit here and overshare, but I will tell you that the things that I will share are things that I have realized, that have been given, said, and confirmed in my relationships that are based on some of these principles. Now, the first thing that I learned is that you will argue. You will argue. And these arguments, it's not about how you argue, it's not about what you argue about, but it's about how you argue. Now, what I mean is that whenever it is you're confronted with your partner with a problem, or you're in a relationship and you are confronted with a problem and you have to face your partner with some kind of disagreement where they think one way and you think another, you're going to have to realize, understand, and take into consideration the fact that this person is individual, autonomous, and different from you. And it's not what you're arguing about, as more importantly, it's about how it is you argue and resolve issues. And sometimes that means that issues may not always get resolved. And I know for women especially, this is an important and very difficult thing for us to understand because we always want to be right. We always want to have our way. We always feel like we should have our way. And I'm going to tell you, depending on who you are, that's not always a good idea. Because if you're the type of person, and interestingly enough, in my experience, it has always been the women that are more strong personalities that usually end up with men that are more submissive, that end up resenting these men because of their submissiveness, because they do not stand by their principles and tell their partners no. So be careful about this because unlike most people that can be objective and leave space for differences, women with strong personalities should not, for our own sake, be given complete reign in our coupling up when it comes to how decisions are being made in a household, especially if those decisions are around children. Now, that's a big, big point that we could unpack in itself. If you guys want to talk more about that, please let me know in the description box down below. I talk about this in some of my fatherless um, conversations. I talk about this in my red pill conversations and some of those things like that. So if you guys want to go check out those videos, please go and do that yourself so that you can get more insight as to what it is I mean when it comes to talking about male authority in the home and family situation. And so, yeah, it's quite nuanced because if a woman is in a situation where she's with a guy who is more submissive and she always gets her way, that's going to become exhausting at some point for her because she's going to have to make all the decisions when it comes to what happens in and outside of the household because the man already knows that that's her job. So this can create resentment because it gives the woman more work and it gives a man an out for not having the ability or even the permission to take control. And sometimes women say that they don't want a man to be controlling, but they want a man to be strong and assertive. Well, that's a part of it. And that's something that I learned quite hard because it just basically means you can't have it all. That comes with the territory of being with a guy that is going to be there to protect you and to take off some of those responsibilities, so to speak, and to actually be the man in the house, so to speak. Okay, so that's a big thing for us. It's a big thing for me, I gotta tell you. I was not prepared, and it was the source and basis of lots of petty arguments, which leads me to my next point, my only and final point in this video, because it's a lot to unpack, and I'm just going to talk about a few or as many things as I can talk about in 10 minutes. And the second thing is going to be the whole idea of when you are trying to uh, expectations, right? Expectations, expectations, expectations. I cannot express this enough. The level of expectations and unspoken expectations in relationship can lead to the breakdown of relationships. Now, I'm not talking about I expect you to pay the bills or I expect you to um, do something that is quite obvious, like hold my hand down the street or introduce me as your wife. I am talking about the little things that are so petty. I think I should call it petty expectations instead, because these are the things that you can see have actually work as the erosion of a relationship, because they're things that are consistently not tackled because either partner may say to themselves or to the other, oh, it's not a big deal, because we don't want to make a small thing out of a little thing. But it is the small things that you would then realize in terms of how your relationship is it in a deficit, or what would be the opposite of deficit, or in plus or minus. Also, if you have a credit or a debit in your bank account or your relationship bank account, is based on the little things that you expect that person to do. And this is one of the things that a lot of divorce lawyers talk about, because they get to know their clients intimately, and they have to ask, like, how did you know that the relationship was over? And a lot of people will say, and I'm going to share some more about this in the comment section, is that people talk about the little things that the other partner or both partners stop doing for each other, that was their love language, that was then expected, that then later broke down. And it doesn't necessarily have to get to the point that it just stopped happening, but the person starts to not want to do it because something has happened on the other side of in terms of the level of expectation of a person wanting the partner to stop doing something else that they're doing that is causing a level of annoyance in the relationship. And because that thing hasn't been corrected, the level of expectation of things that the person wants the other to do is then taken away as punishment, instead of us just talking to each other and saying, hey, you stopped doing X or Y or Z. Why? What has happened? It builds a level of resentment, because you wait until the person starts doing it. You don't say anything, and then that person stops doing their love language with you, and then they don't, and then the thing starts to break up. And by the time the thing starts to break down, based on the level of unspoken expectation, then we see that this becomes a huge issue. Most of the time, irreparable damage is done at that point, and the relationship is not able to recover. So I think that it is very important for us in our love language to make sure that we be consistent in the way we present our the way we show love for each other, and also make sure that you are always practicing that love language with your partner, and look also for cues as to what it is they enjoy, love, and are very, very positively responsive to. So, relationship is a job, and you got to make sure that you're the type of person that likes to show up to their job on a regular basis, willing and ready to serve. And the third thing is, and this is mainly for the ladies, because I think men don't have such a problem with this as women. And I know people are going to come for me like never before, but I'm gonna go out on the limb, and I'm gonna have the conversation. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. It's happening. Relationships are a service. Marriage is a service industry. And we have a lot of masters, and I feel like a preacher when I say this. We have a lot of masters in this day, a lot of things that are pulling our attention, right? Our cell phones, social media, our jobs, our hobbies, our friends. And they're all pulling us in different directions. And a relationship is something that you have to really, really prioritize as work that you do consistently, and work that you do well. And that means that it requires a level of energy of you that you can't always give well if you have competing elements in your life that are taking away from your time with your relationship. And when you give of your time to the relationship, it is a service and a job that you do to serve your partner without, this is the hard part, without the expectation that you are getting something in return. Give of yourself as if you would want someone to give to you, but without the expectation of expecting anything in return. And I can hear everyone in the background right now going, hell nah, I'm not here for that life. If I'm going to be loving, I'm going to be loving conditionally. If he's not nice to me, if he's not good to me, if he's not blah, blah, blah to me, then there is a reason for that. You shouldn't always take these things and signs as something against you. Although I do not support abuse or abusive relationships. If your partner is abusing you in any way, shape, or form, you should actually making sure that you seek help and get advice as to how to end and get away from that person as quickly as possible. What I'm talking about is the petty neglect of a person because they're caught up in their own situation. Make sure that you're doing your job to get that person's attention through selfless giving. And I'm not talking about the kind of giving that is martyrdom. Oh, look at how much I give and look at how much I do, and you're just, not doing anything or giving anything. But actually be able to have a conversation about why that person is not being reciprocal and speaking your love language back to you. Of course, I'm just assuming here that you have had the conversation with this person about your love language while you were dating a long, 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 long time ago, and what it is you expect from that person so that you know that you're getting what it is that you want in return. And now that we're married and able to express in a way and maintain that expression in such a way that they already know what it is your selfless love language is. I'm sorry, you can give openly and honestly that someday, some way, somehow, you are going to be able to receive back what you've given the way you expected. And already put in your mind a timeline as to how long you're going to wait before you bring it to their attention that you're not getting what it is that you expect. But always keeping in the forefront, always keeping in the forefront of your mind that giving to your partner is a service that you enjoy. If it feels like a chore, if it feels like work, if it feels like something that you don't want to do and feel obligated to do, then I think that that is a time for you to step back and try to reevaluate your priorities in your relationship, because the whole idea of serving your partner should be joy in itself and enough in itself for you to not be doing it and thinking, okay, I'm only doing this because I'm going to get something in return. I can't equate it to any other thing. I mean, this is talking about what makes marriage work or what has made my marriage work is like talking about is like talking about childbirth or talking about what love is. It is very nuanced and it's very different for many people. But more importantly, I find that the more I talk to women and men out here who have not been married, or even those who have been married and divorced, I'm quite saddened by the fact that we have gone through so many relationships as individuals and still actually don't know what it's like to experience genuine true love outside of maybe our mom or our parents, if we were so lucky. Um, we are experiencing as a nation and as a society very conditional love with strings attached. And that skews our view and our expectations of what it is that's possible for us. And it gives us a real dampering sense of self doubt because we are not clear as to about what it is love looks like. And we have very little to refer back to as to what is acceptable and what isn't. And I so hope that through this conversation or these conversations that I've had with y'all on my channel, that I can shed some light on some of the beautiful things that we're having. It is an awful idea or expectation or even experience to have to fight and argue with your partner about the things that you want in your relationship. Arguments hurt, and they often are very, very, very taxing emotionally, and they take away a lot of your energy. And you don't go into it feeling good about yourself when you say or do things that you know is hurting the person you say you love. But they're absolutely necessary, especially if that person is fighting back and you realize that they're fighting back because they also want to be heard and they also want their needs to be met. And again, the way you fight is more important than what you fight about. Fighting does not necessarily have to happen too often, but it needs to happen enough for you to have a deeper connection with working out some of the differences in your relationship. And that can only come from communication. Regardless of how hard or messy it is, you know that you're in it for the long run if you and your partner are willing to have the hard conversations to get to a solution that can bring you closer together and to have each other express the love in the way that best suits your relationship. Now, we're only scratching the surface in this conversation. And like I said, I'm not some relationship guru. I'm not a marriage counselor or nothing like that. I'm just a person who has had a lot of relationships. Pause. I'm just a person who has talked with a lot of people about their relationship and has been married twice and long enough to kind of be able to have some insight as to what has helped us. People always comment so often as to how loving and amazing me and my husband are towards each other. And we look at each other and we laugh because y'all, I'm not gonna overshare right now, but it didn't happen overnight, okay? It came at a very, very, very it came at a high price and it came with a lot of work. And you can do it too because we're very ordinary, regular citizens who just want to see marriage work. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this content. I hope that you stick around for some more. And please make sure to stay safe and stay free.